So, very few business schools are able to articulate who they are and what they do, I think, as clearly as SPJIMR can. And so I must sort of say that, there are oldies and goodies, and this one is one of them. I think this mission statement has stood the test of time. It was crafted before these concepts became fashionable, and that is the reason why I find this mission statement to be authentic and genuine. And the mission statement is very simple. The mission statement is really about influencing practice and promoting value-based growth. Now, let's take a look at what each of them means, or what each one means to me. Influencing practice is basically what we do. And what does SPJIMR do to influence practice? They work with students by offering them the right kinds of pedagogical experiences through the right kinds of teaching. And they create thought leadership. And they work with organizations in terms of how organizations implement key practices. And all of this is done with the purpose of creating or driving value-based growth. So let's take a look at what value-based growth means and to whom. To a student, when SPJIMR talks about promoting value-based growth within a student, what we're basically saying is we would love our students to come out of SPJIMR with a genuine sense of who they are, with a sense of compassion for not just themselves, but the world around them, a sense of appreciation for the actions they take, and a sense of discrimination for how those actions positively or negatively impact society. That kind of a conscious citizen is what SPJIMR tries to do. And in that sense, the growth that we're talking about is the growth of the individual. We're talking about a person being a better person coming out of SPJIMR than they were coming in. We're talking about the values that they imbibe at SPJIMR, like my friend Vikram did, helping them throughout their lives as they continue to grow. You're not going to stop growing once you leave whichever educational institution you went to. And so the question is, what did the educational institution do to help you continue to learn, to help you continue to grow? And I think that's what value-based growth means from a student perspective. Now, value-based growth also can be interpreted with a few other lenses. What does value-based growth mean if you're a company? What does value-based growth mean if you're a society? And what is it that SPJIMR does to promote value-based growth at the company level and value-based growth at the society level? Now, at the company level, when we look at value-based growth, what we think of is growth that is inclusive and growth that is sustainable. So we're talking really about growth, again, that benefits not just the individual corporation, but the corporation's various stakeholders. And in management theory, you might refer to it as stakeholder theory. The reason I like the concept of value-based growth is because it kind of predates some of these more buzzwordy jargon phrases that have then come into the management lexicon. So inclusive growth is really about making sure you're not the sole beneficiary. Of course, the purpose of capitalism is to make a profit. Of course, the purpose is to win. But I do believe you can win without others having to necessarily lose, right? There is something called a win-win. And I would sort of say inclusive growth is really looking for win-win opportunities wherever possible. The second kind of growth is sustainable growth. You see too many stories of chief executives and CFOs borrowing or stealing from tomorrow's earnings to goose up today's earnings. That would be an example of a simple kind of growth that's really not sustainable, right? Because the next year will come and that growth just won't be there, but maybe the CEO and the CFO have moved on with rich remuneration onto greener pastures. Now, that is at a very sort of a material level, if you will. But sustainable growth is also about sustainability of the company and the economy. And in this case, sustainability is about making sure that you're not creating negative externalities, you're not destroying the environment in the process, you're not through predatory pricing destroying the entire business ecosystem, and that the system that you as a company work in remains sustainable and you take the actions to make sure that your success doesn't depend on sort of the destruction of the environment around you that supports you. Now, interestingly, these two concepts of inclusivity and sustainability pretty much permeate the 17 strategic development goals that the United Nations has been talking about since 2015. But again, I would point to the genuineness of SPJIMR's mission statement as something that was crafted in the 1980s and that has basically endured since. And similarly, at a society level, I don't know about you, but the society I want to live in is one where everybody is equal, where everybody has the opportunity to succeed, where everybody is given the tools to succeed, one that is inclusive. And certainly I want this world to be there for my children and my children's children, and I want it to be a sustainable world as opposed to something that I took advantage of at a personal level and discarded, like a used sock.